Hello, this is Viste, and today I am releasing version 1.0 of the demo for Chronos Trials RPG. I released the demo 2 weeks ago and received quite a lot of feedback. Most of it was positive. I had some few complaints, and I've tried to address as many of those as possible and sort of fix bugs and just create sort of a better version for everyone to enjoy until the game comes out. So I'm just going to be showing you everything I've done and sort of how to install it, and we'll go from there. So, first things first, we've got a new title screen, we've got some particle effects going on behind it. It's not too performance intensive, it should work fine on mobile devices. It's just like a little something to give it a little bit more life because it was a bit boring before. As always, we've got sort of the 4 options, but we now have a graphics setting as well. This can be changed obviously between low or high, and this will help anyone who's got perhaps older devices like myself, and this just changes a few things, mainly in combat. That's where most of the changes are made, and I'll show you the changes. So we're going to go to a new game, and first thing we'll see, we have a new player character. We are no longer naked. We have this little guy. He's kind of just enjoying himself there. And we also have an outfits section. So we now have a wardrobe, and we can choose between 4 different outfits. It's not an awful lot of customization, I know, but it's more than what we had. So green is the default, but you have new options now. Also in this room, we now have a tutorial section. If you walk into here, you will see there's 3 different options for core stats, extra stats, and the hour system. Core stats will just show you how every status works. Obviously health, attack, and just gives a little bit more information that you normally wouldn't be able to access unless you were in the Discord server. There we go, so enemies have a minimum damage value they can deal. Agility is based on the enemy's agility as well, and then luck as well. I need to fix that small cut off there, I've just noticed that. That will be fixed in the demo. There we go, and just a little bit more information about how leveling up works. And there we go. And obviously there's the same for extra stats, which goes over like the marks, critical rates, evasion rates, combos, all of that sort of thing. And then the hour system, which just talks about how you actually, consume your energy, where you can get more of it. So that's now in the game. If we step outside, we can see we also have equipment sets now. So if I go into my inventory, this looks a little bit different as well. Let's say I want one equipment set where I'm not wearing a shirt. We remove that, and we go to equipment 2. We can see it's sort of carried over because it just copies what you originally had for the first time. Let's put the shirt back on. Now if we go back to set 1, we'll see that it's saved that I'm not wearing a shirt. It will still be in our inventory. It hasn't duplicated itself. If we go to set 2, we can see we're now wearing a shirt again. If I want set 3 to have absolutely no equipment in it whatsoever, we can do that. Set 1, dagger. Set 2, dagger and shirt. Set 3 is now empty. Now obviously you can, have your entire loadout, so you can have an experience set, you can have just a raw damage set. You can try out different builds without having to redo your entire inventory each time. So that's what that's for. And I'm really glad it worked, because I did attempt this a while ago and it went very badly wrong. There was item duplication, there was losing items permanently. So it's now fixed, it fully works. Yeah. Now let's go to combat. So this is the new combat menu. We can see we now have animated health bars, slanted health bars with a gradient with a little bit of a shine on them. The kind of animation there is quite smooth. We now have random events appearing above our health bar as opposed to in the top left where it's not immediately visible. The gold information is a little bit taller. The item icons are a little bit bigger as well, so we can properly see what it is we're actually trying to drop. There we go. We can also see the post-battle screen has changed. It now comes up at the bottom. This is a performance thing. The plugin I was using, I noticed there's a little bit of lag when I was using it, and there's just some things I wasn't entirely happy with it. So now it's in this system, and it still correctly shows the amount of experience you have, which is good. So that's that. Additionally, obviously, we now have the new battle background. I really quite like this one. This might end up being the final version. Mainly just because obviously you've got the red kind of background towards the top where the enemy is, and the blue towards the bottom, so it actually kind of creates a nice contrast in that sense. And also it's just an easier background to be able to read everything on, because some people were saying the white background made it hard to see the damage numbers, and you're completely right for that. It was an oversight by me. But now we have this version, so hopefully that's more readable for future combats. I have made a list of everything I was going to talk about today. I did have it up, but my phone's just turned off. There we go. Cool, so we've done outfits tutorial, new hard battle background, skill tree. Here we go. The skill tree now has a reset button. This will essentially turn off all of the skill points, and you get all of your skill points back. And this lets you just experiment with different builds, and there's no cost to this whatsoever. You don't have to get any premium currencies. You don't have to, beat a boss to get a reset. You can do this anytime. I want to sort of reward experimentation, give people a chance to actually see everything on a skill tree, figure out what the best way to do it is. So you can always reset your skill tree. You can do it as many times as you want. No limit to it. You could even, if you really want to min-max, in between every fight, you could create a completely new skill tree based on what you want. I wouldn't recommend it. It's going to eat up your playtime, but that is technically possible. So that is an option. For example, if you have an experience skill tree and you get to the final boss, you've got 1 energy left, you could be like, right, let's put everything into attack now. I wouldn't recommend it, but it is there if you really want to give it a go. So that's that. So like I said, we have some new menus. This is because I had to replace all of them manually because the plugin I was using didn't work when on a app version. So they're looking about this now. You can see it's a little bit kind of, I wouldn't say buggy, just like the visuals are sometimes a little bit off, but it was either this or just not having a menu at all. Like, this is the best I could do for now. Yeah, it's difficult to do these. So then the new menus, and they've already gone over the options menu. We now have the graphics option. So on top of that, actually let's show the low graphics option. That would make sense, wouldn't it? Cool. So now we can see that health bars are not animated. They have no gradient, none of that. The animation is gone for the damage value at the bottom as well. So it's basically just less moving parts, less frames to sort of calculate. It's a little bit easier to run on mobile. I couldn't optimize it much more than this. Obviously, everything's fairly static, so that's low graphics mode. On top of that, there's also there's weather effects now. In some maps, there'll be rain, snow, things like that. Low graphics mode will turn it off, so you don't have to also try and process the rain effects and all the particles that come out of that. So that's what low graphics mode does. I would recommend it if you're noticing any kind of lag at all. Yeah. On top of that, while we're on the topic of lag, I have fixed the issue with lots of experience just causing the game to freeze entirely. Yeah, that's now been completely fixed as far as I know. I tested it with millions and millions of experience and I had no lag whatsoever. So at the very least, you should notice a significant reduction in that delay if you do have any at all. So that's that. There's been a lot of balance changes, which I'll quickly bring up. These are spoilery if you care about what items do, although information is kind of reduced. So here we go. Let's quickly go over these and zoom out. I'm going to paste this in a Discord as well. I just realized you can't see half of this. I'm going to move my face out of the way a little bit. There we go. Cool. So let's just go straight in. One of the skill tree nodes, it was 3% experience for the ultimate node at the end of the run. So I've changed it to 4%. It felt more fitting. Emblem of Agony, I nerfed it heavily, and I felt like I did it maybe too much. So I'm bringing up its attack a little bit. Same with Emblem of Agony 2 to, have that difference between the two. Shark Fin felt a little bit weak compared to other accessories in the game, so I've just slightly increased the agility to further the critical damage you get from it. Jenna's Ring, 4% damage reduction and 1% health regen is pretty decent, but I feel like there could have been a little bit more to it compared to other accessories around the time. So it now gives you 25 defense or 250 in hard mode. Strangel's Eye is a accessory that buffs your critical damage, but it didn't give you any crit chance. So it felt like a decent option, but then I felt like giving it a little bit of a crit chance made it more viable as a standalone accessory if you just wanted to have it in there. So it now gives 2% crit chance. Miner's Gear is an armor you get in between. There's quite a long gap between when you get armor at this stage in the game, so I wanted to make sure Miner's Gear kind of lasted a little bit longer than it needed to. So I've given it a little bit of extra defense to kind of tide you over until you get the next one, because I noticed I was starting to struggle a little bit after I nerfed it, all of the armors. So I've made this one a little bit stronger just to kind of get you through the level 1000 area. Same with Fire Knight's breastplate as well, just a slight buff. Again, because the difference between that and the next armor is quite a while. Health charms I felt were a little bit weak. I did nerf them quite heavily, and I feel like I did it a little bit too much. So I've just slightly increased it. We can see we've gone from like 10, 15 to there we go, 12, all the way up to 50%. So it's not a huge buff, it's just a little bit to make it feel a little bit better. Femur is meant to be a weapon that is not good late game at all, or even mid game, but gives you a huge boost at the start. But there are a lot of weapons that were on par with it, even without that kind of intention. So I've given it a little bit more attack for the stage of the game you're in, and this will kind of give it a more viable use case. And finally, Steel Sword, I felt like was a tiny bit on the weak side for when you get it in the game compared to the other weapons available. So I've given it a little bit of an attack buff. I didn't want to affect the percentage. I felt like the percentage attack was good, but it just needed a little bit more of a oomph to it. Chain Link. This is a problematic one. I already know that this is going to be an absolute nightmare for me going forward to balance. It's incredibly tough to figure out, how I'm going to make this viable. But the thing is, with Chain Link, for those that don't know, it essentially gives you an extra attack at the expense of losing quite a lot of attack. So a lot of the strength in it, as I say just down below here, a lot of the strength comes from being able to trigger like marks, extra critical hit chances, all of that sort of stuff. So a part of me was considering making it unique, making it an accessory you can only equip once, but I didn't want to kind of completely shut off a lot of builds that people have. So I decided that just nerfing attack a little bit more, like for example 50% attack reduction, effectively you're not doing any extra damage, as opposed to the 40%, which is like technically a 20% attack buff. So doing this now gives it a very specific purpose, as opposed to just, here's extra damage if you equip this. It's now I have to use other things to get the benefit from this. And same with Chain Link 2, it's a 60% attack reduction now for a similar reason. Obviously I can't have this being the same as Chain Link 1, otherwise it's just, it's going to be an awful lot better. So, Shark Fin 2, the critical damage buff was 50%. Compared to a lot of other items in the game, this is an awful lot, so I've had to reduce it down to 35. It feels a little bit more balanced this way. Spare Eyes 2, the combo chance was 5%, which is quite high, especially when you're combining it with Chain Link and other multi-hit effects, so I've reduced that to 4%. Glowing Eyes had a 4% crit chance. The item was insanely strong. It wasn't actually meant to be in the demo in the first place, but now I'm embracing it, so I'm just slightly balancing it to not have it be completely ridiculous. Agility Novel was a little bit too strong. No one used it. Everyone uses the offense novels and the attack and health, which is valid because that's kind of what you're meant to do anyway. But yeah, Agility Novel, if you used it, would just make your critical hits do an absurd amount of damage just based on how I've scaled the enemies. So yeah, now it's for agility per level. This shouldn't change it too much in terms of its effectiveness. But yeah, if you use several of them, your critical hits will be doing like 8 times the normal damage. Combat Novel, for the same reason, has been nerfed as well. And then we go on to Crossbow. I made crossbow a little bit too strong. So I've reduced the percentage attack fairly significantly, and also the mark chance. This is probably the biggest nerf I've done to the crossbow, but it was very, very strong. Crossbow 2 as well, for the same reason, has the slight nerf, but I didn't want to reduce the power of that one because it's in hard mode. Goblin Dagger, again, was very strong for the time you got it at. 125% attack twice, 250% damage essentially. Yeah, it's quite a bit. And finally, Self-Sharpening Sword, again, that was really quite strong, especially with multi-hit effects, so bringing it down to 10% feels like a good value anyway, 10% as opposed to 12, but yeah, crit damage would scale very quickly with this, on top of all of your pre-existing crit modifiers. I've done some reworks to Relics. I've done a lot of Relic work, actually, because this was the most underdeveloped part of the game when I released a demo. So, as you can see, Gold Pouch is no longer useless. It no longer gives you 5,000 gold. It buffs all gold by 20%, as well as a 15% luck increase. So, luck affects how much gold you get as well. So, taking this will definitely see you having more gold than normal. And it's just a little bit more viable than just a single, here's 5 grand, you can't spend it on anything, you've already bought everything anyway. That's that. Cursed Novel. This one, again, same as Chain Link, this one's going to be a nightmare for me to try and balance, but I still want to keep it as an effect, so we have changed it a little bit. Originally, you would get 2 attack and agility per level, which, looking back, was absolutely insane, at the expense of losing 1 defense and health per level. Now it's only 1 attack and agility level per level, purely because the time of the game you get it at, once you beat Vincent, the level 200 boss, you unlock Relics. Having 2 attack per level that early on, yeah, it was just making people finish the game way too fast. This just sent you through hundreds of stages. So it's now 1 attack. It's still very good, but you now lose 10% of your health each turn. So there's still a bit of a cursed nature to it. It's kind of a, you know, quite a detriment, but if you're one-shotting everything anyway, it doesn't matter. I've affected luck. Before I released a patch where I increased how much of an effect luck had on getting gold. I really overdid it. So a lot of people were getting like millions of gold when everything was like 800k at most. So I've reduced it. So luck still has got a noticeable impact on getting gold, but just not as much. And we have 2 new relics. I felt like 5 was far too few, especially with Gold Pouch being the kind of wet flannel that it was. So we've got 2 new relics, and these are quite fun ones, especially Spinning Top. This might be my favourite. So, Spinning Top. The random events you get in combat, you have the ×2 and 3 experience, you've got the ×2 and 5 gold, and then you've got the ×2 drop chance. Spinning Top adds 3 new random events. And these are ×10 luck, so you get basically an extra item reroll if you get lucky. The ×4 drop chance, which is obviously very good, but has a 1 in 23 chance of appearing. And the no experience or gold earned. This is a detriment. This kind of gives it a reason to kind of consider taking it as opposed to just this is better, you know, because ×4 drop chance is pretty decent. But yeah, Spinning Top is just a little bit more luck involved. You have 2 positive new random events, but then you have 1 to kind of be wary of. Originally I was going to have it be, you know, halve your stats or something crazy, but then it was like, oh, the game just kind of punishes you every now and then for no reason at all. You just lose a fight because the game said so. Didn't really feel fair, so I changed it to no experience or gold. You can still get item drops, so it doesn't completely make a fight pointless. But then, obviously, you know, you risk losing an energy unnecessarily every now and then. But you get more item drops, essentially, if you get lucky. Obviously, getting the ×4 drop chance when you're trying to go for a legendary item is always nice. So that's that. That's what Spinning Top does. And we have Corrupted Plume. This is kind of a play on the Feather of the Forest Watcher. It's a corrupted version of that. Critical hits restore 3% of your maximum health. This one is probably the best relic in the game currently. So, One thing I am considering is creating different rarities of relic. This could be... The thing is with it though, is currently, if you don't like the 3 relics you have, you can just restart your loop and they wouldn't... you could just keep doing that over and over again until you get the relic you want. So it kind of defeats the point of them if you do that, but obviously you have full control over how you play the game, so if you just want to get one relic, go for it. If you want to play with spinning top 24/7, go for it. Then that means adding rarities to relics becomes a little bit more difficult, and I kind of don't want to, purely for the reason of balance. I don't want there to be a legendary relic very early on, for example, and then you just use that and you get like 5,000 stages forward. So yeah, it's a tough one. I want them all to be kind of around the rarity of like an uncommon item, perhaps. Maybe a rare out of bush, but I don't want any of the relics to be like obscenely broken, because the game revolves more around them as opposed to what your build is, and I don't want that to be the case. I just want these to be like a fun little addition you can add, just to kind of spice up some runs a little bit, or help you out if you're struggling. If you're kind of finding a point in the game where you're completely stuck, you can't get any further, relics are meant to help you just kind of get over that hurdle a little bit. So, critical hits restore 3% of your maximum health, very good with chain link, very good with magic missiles, just keeps you alive a little bit longer. This could be reduced to 2% max health, I do see it happening, but I just want to see how this functions for now. So that's all of the balance changes, and I can move this over again. There we are. High quality video editing right there. I believe that was everything I needed to talk about. Let's have a look. Balance changes, new relics. Yeah, bug fixes. As I say, any bugs, I have fixed every single bug that was mentioned to me in the Discord server. Everything that was brought up, all of the XP glitches, all of this guy's level is wrong, all of that has been fixed. So as of now, there are no bugs that I'm aware of. If anything major comes up, I will patch it. But if it's like very small things like, oh, this has a typo in it, I won't do a whole update just to fix that. But if it's something like game breaking, like, hey, this guy drops like 15 health gems for some reason, then obviously I'll fix that. But for now, the game's in a good place. I don't think we're missing anything. I don't think anything's broken. So this is why I'm sort of releasing this as a 1.0 version. Additionally, most of the changes I've made have been to allow me to turn this into an app now. So you no longer have to install like JoyPlay or Moldivez or Maldives or however you want to say it. You don't have to install an emulator to play it on mobile. You can now just install it as a simple app, which should help out a lot of people and just make it a little bit less of a headache. I've also noticed it does improve the performance quite a bit being in an app version, which is always great. So anyone that was struggling before should have a better time now. So that is everything. I really hope you enjoyed this demo. I hope you like all of the changes. I hope you agree with the balance options. If you have any, if it's any item that you really like that you think's been unnecessarily nerfed or buffed, let me know. I'm just trying to I'm trying to do everything by myself essentially. So any feedback at all helps me out immensely, because playtesting this game takes a lot of time, and I can't do it every single time I make a change. So having 250 of you currently being able to say, hey, this item is kind of broken now, really helps out. So let me know. Enjoy the demo. See you later.